Do you think this time it's different, that we are seeing with the Me Too movement something that is truly going to lead to change for women?
Look, at its root, this is all about the abuse of power. It's all about the abuse of power. Whether it's Harvey Weinstein or the guy who, the plumber who has a secretary he harasses. It's all about the abuse of power, number one. Number two, women should be believed.
It's insane that we have to explain why Biden is gross. By Kathy Copeland Patton, aka Cranky Pants Cat. Let's cut to the chase, shall we? Joe Biden's behavior is inappropriate, offensive, and predatory. Many people reject this simple truth due to willful ignorance or a sense of entitlement. For a disturbing portion of the country, this prevailing attitude is all they've known their entire lives. The prevailing attitude being, of course, that women and children don't have the right to set boundaries and demand sovereignty over their bodies and personal space. I realize this, and yet I will attempt to make my case in the hopes of reaching the previously unreachable. Even if it's just one person, it would be well worth the effort. But I suspect the undertaking is almost as futile as trying to teach compassion or empathy. You either get it or you don't. But I'm a masochist, so here goes. Let's start with the basics. Putting your hands on a woman without her express consent is assault. The political affiliation of the predator is irrelevant. Sniffing a woman or child's neck and hair should be met with baseball bat justice. Doing these things to a child should be met with a testicle-smashing lynch mob, then baseball bat justice. This is simply common sense to most people in 2020. The rules regarding personal space hold true for everyone, including ex-Vice President Biden. Actually, this goes double for men in a position of power over the women and or children he exploits under the pretense of affectionate friendliness. Here's a graph by ResearchGate.net. Public relations is the outside and public distance is the outside. Then stranger, which is correlated to social distance. Then friend, which is personal distance. Then family, lover, which is intimate distance. So if you're a public figure, you should keep public distance. I find it unsurprising that many men give Biden a pass here. Obviously, most have never been on the skin-crawling receiving end of that sort of predatory behavior. If you've never frantically searched for an opportunity to escape the local creep who everyone thinks is a great guy, you have no reference point. Here's a heartwarming personal anecdote. When I was 13, I babysat for the same family every Thursday. The husband would drive me home. It was right up the street, thankfully. That dude was creepy as fuck, always up in my shit, but only when the wife wasn't around. I dreaded having to deal with him. I finally started walking home after babysitting. That actually felt safer. He would try to keep me chatting for as long as possible outside his house and insisted on watching me head home until I was out of his line of vision. I could feel his eyes even with my back turned. It was incredibly intimidating for a 13-year-old. Was he just being friendly, caring, and personable? I'm sure that's what he'd claim, but what grown-ass man puts his arm around a 13-year-old and tells her she's beautiful every week? On a creepy scale of 0, Burnie, to Biden, 10, that shitbag was an 11. I'm hardly unique in my experience. This sort of thing is what girls and women deal with their entire lives. And I'm not trying to suggest that only young girls are put in such a position, just that it's more likely. The men who defend Biden's reprehensible behavior would knock that old perv on his entitled ass if he deigned to grab them from behind, kissing them and breathing in their scent. Men's personal space is a given. Women and children are only allowed the same basic courtesy if it suits the man or men in control. That's why this is so fucked up. The guys who would defend their own personal boundaries to the point of fisticuffs believe, consciously or unconsciously, women and children have no right to the same basic human courtesy. Joe Biden sees absolutely nothing wrong with his actions, completely disregarding the discomfort and even trauma he causes with his dirty old man antics. This is entirely unacceptable for any man. But to accept this behavior from a vice president and potential presidential nominee is a grievous indictment of our cultural mores. And the women apologists for old gropey Joe, I'm looking at you, Alyssa Milano. Textbook Stockholm Syndrome. Simple as that. The mindset being, if I play along and act like one of the guys, maybe I'll avoid being victimized by men myself. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. None of this works that way. And please, for the love of sanity, stop trying to minimize Biden's inappropriateness by comparing him to the pussy-grabbing orange anal wart. Just because Trump is a misogynist asshole doesn't make Biden any less culpable for his own behavior. It's time we insist on better from our public servants. Now, progressives, stop supporting rapists. Biden supporters /DNC. You know what? I'm going to support them even harder.